Welcome back to the Deep Dive. This is the show, engineered for those who want that foundational knowledge, those transformative insights, but without all the noise. We really try to skip the academic fluff.
Yeah, just straight to the point.
Exactly. Straight to those aha moments that, genuinely move the needle in how you understand things. Mm-hmm. Today, we're really undertaking a deep dive into an idea that's so fundamental to, personal reality creation. Frankly, it kind of shifts the entire paradigm of effort versus outcome.
It really does.
We're not talking about, working harder or chasing opportunities out there, not the external stuff.
No.
We are diving into a really profound method for shaping tomorrow's reality. And it's found not in that outward effort, but in a specific internal state, one you actually enter every single night.
That liminal state.
Right. We're examining the conscious, the deliberate use of imagination right before you drift off to sleep. It's what some of our sources actually call the doorway to miracle.
That is the core mission.
Yeah.
And our sources tonight, they really coalesce around these, ancient but incredibly powerful teachings. They focus on the creative capacity of human imagination.
Oh.
And the operative mechanism they often refer to as the law of assumption. We're specifically zooming in on those critical moments, that twilight phase. Exactly. Between full wakefulness and full deep sleep, that liminal state we mentioned.
Right.
Now, the premise, and it might sound a bit philosophical at first, but it proves entirely practical, is this. Imagination is the fundamental creative power. It's the means by which all circumstances are actually made.
All of them. Like my current situation.
Your current environment, your relationships, your health, yeah. According to these sources, it was first conceived in imagination, either consciously or, let's be honest, more often unconsciously.
Right. We're not always aware of what we're imagining.
Not at all. So the key, therefore, is to transition from that sort of idle, drifting imagination to conscious direction of this, ultimate creative force.
Okay, and here's the immediate contrast that jumps out from the source material. Repeated. Most people unknowingly use this power against themselves.
That's the crux of it.
They treat sleep like it's just an escape, right? They drift into slumber filled with worry, or they're replaying arguments from the day, nursing old regrets, or just, dreading tomorrow's to-do list.
Precisely. They're using the most sacred, the most potent, creative moment of their entire day to rehearse drama, fear, and lack. It's unconscious, yes, but they're impressing those exact negative images and feelings onto their subconscious mind.
At the very moment it's most receptive.
At the most receptive moment. When the guard is down.
And the consequence. It's not presented like a punishment, is it? More like an inevitable law?
Absolutely. It's neutral.
Yeah.
The subconscious, it's described as this impartial creative engine. It then just organizes their external life circumstances, the people they meet, the choices they make, the events that unfold to mirror those negative internal impressions faith. So our deep dive today is really about stopping that cycle, learning how to harness that power with, the intention of profound fulfillment instead.
Okay, let's really unpack this definition of imagination, because we need to elevate it way beyond just, idle daydreaming. The sources are almost theological in their definition. They clarify imagination isn't just a temporary distraction. It is the creative power itself, the divine faculty within us.
Yes, and if we connect that to the bigger picture, we need to stop seeing imagination as something passive or frivolous or just intellectual.
Like mental doodling.
Exactly, and start seeing it as the causative engine of reality. It's almost like the highest form of reality because it has to come before any physical manifestation.
And nothing appears without being imagined first.
Until it's imagined, it cannot be externalized. That's the core principle here.
That makes that analogy from the sources incredibly vivid. They suggest every night you're literally, painting the canvas of your tomorrow.
I love that analogy.
Imagination is the brush you're holding. But the crucial part, the really critical bit, is understanding that the colors you apply, those are the feelings you allow to dominate as you drift into...
As colors, that's power.
So if your final thoughts right before you slip under are dominated by, say, financial anxieties or relationship regrets or just general dark, shadowy thought...
Yeah, the usual stuff people worry about.
That's the palette you're using. You're coloring tomorrow darkly. That's your rehearsal for the coming day. But if those final thoughts are filled with faith or gratitude for a wish already fulfilled, maybe the vivid image of your desire already realized.
A totally different palette.
Totally different. Then you awaken to a world that's already starting to arrange itself in harmony with that inner, brighter...
And what's truly insightful here, I think, is the deep examination of the common pitfall, what we might call the habit of negative rehearsal.
The default mode for many, probably.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's insidious because it often feels productive, doesn't it? We convince ourselves that worrying about the bills is, being responsible.
Or replaying that argument helps you prepare for them.
Right. Or that reliving it is necessary for future conflict resolution. We think we're problem solving.
But we're essentially spending the most receptive moments of our day dwelling in the problem.
Exactly.
Rather than dwelling in the solution or the feeling of this.
Exact. People are habitually reviewing the day's failures, nursing those old emotional wounds, projecting fear into the future. And this is the critical, often surprising mechanism. The subconscious accepts these negative impressions without critique.
No filter.
No filter. It doesn't judge the content as good or bad, true or false. It only receives the energetic charge, the feeling, and the assumed truth of the scene you're playing out.
So let's make that concrete. If I go to bed rehearsing an argument I had with my boss, really focusing on the anger, maybe the fear of getting fired, the subconscious interprets that rehearsal not as a what if, but as a kind of factual statement about my current reality.
Precisely. It takes that worry, that feeling of being dismissed or failing, as its direct, as the truth of the situation.
Okay.
It then organizes the entire subsequent 24 hours, subtly, maybe but effectively, to reinforce that feeling. It does this by influencing your decision, the attitude you carry into work the next day.
How you interact with that boss.
Exactly. And the way external events seem to line up, it's a faithful reproduction system, just mirroring the feeling you fed it last night.
It sounds like a guaranteed internal feedback loop then. If you plant weeds of financial worry,
Yep.
the field of your life will faithfully produce circumstances that, well, necessitate more financial worry. It keeps the cycle going.
It is the unavoidable outpicturing of the internal state. The necessary shift, therefore, isn't about fighting the outside world, because that world is just manifested history. It's already happened.
It's the past made solid.
Right. The real work is learning to direct that imagination intentionally, especially in that quiet state before sleep. You have to learn to refuse to carry the failures, the hurts, the deficiencies of the day into what the sources call the sacred chamber of sleep.
You have to consciously choose a different scene.
You must choose the scene of victory, of fulfillment instead. Leave the problems outside the door.
Okay, here's where we really step into the deep dive territory properly. Why this specific time? Why are the moments just before sleep, that twilight, why are they so unique and critically powerful? Whole process? It can't just be a nice idea. There must be a mechanical.
Yeah, the sources spend significant time detailing this. They clarify that the twilight state, or the hypnagogic state.
Right, I've heard that term.
Where you're drowsy but not fully unconscious, it's unlike any other period of the day. It marks a fundamental neurological and psychological shift.
Okay, how so?
Well, during our normal waking hours, our brain operates mostly in beta state. That's rapid, analytical, externally focused, busy mind.
Right, thinking, doing.
Thinking, doing, analyze. When we enter that twilight state, the mind slows down. We start moving towards alpha and even theta brainwave patterns.
Slower waves.
Much slower. This shift does a couple of things. It reduces the intensity of sensory input processing, but crucially, it dampens the analytical function of the conscious mind.
Okay. So our conscious mind, the part that's busy reasoning, analyzing, doubting all day, that's essentially the guard at the gate of the subconscious.
That's a perfect way to put it, the guard at the gate.
And during the day, that guard is, vigilant. It's constantly checking your desires against your past experiences, your bank balance,
your perceived limitations,
societal expectations, everything. It questions whether desires are realistic, if goals are achievable, if dreams are even possible. It's the voice of skepticism, isn't it? Caution.
Absolutely. Necessary for survival in some ways, but terrible for creation, as you said earlier.
Right. But as we prepare for sleep, this guard grows drowsy. Is that the phrase they use?
That's the exact phrase. The physical and mental relaxation needed for sleep naturally sedates that conscious critical faculty. The guard relaxes its grip. The defenses that usually keep suggestions out, they start to crumble.
Oh, okay.
So the sources explain that whatever scene or feeling is deliberately placed before the mind at this specific time is allowed to pass directly into the deeper self, the subconscious.
Bypassing the guard.
Completely bypassing the usual vetting process, without skepticism, without judgment. And this immediate acceptance, this lack of resistance, is what gives the impression its heightened creative power.
Wow. So those final thoughts before sleep, they're not just fleeting mental images. They are, in fact, the most powerful creative impressions you'll make all day.
Arguably, yes.
Because they're being injected into the subconscious during this moment of profound receptivity, shielded from the daytime's constant internal critique.
Exactly. They are seeds planted in the most fertile soil at the absolute most opportune time, which is why the instruction is always fall asleep, feeling fulfilled, feel it is done.
Because that last feeling is what sinks deep.
The moment you lose conscious control, that last dominant feeling is what sinks in and begins its creative work over.
Okay, and speaking of fertile soil, let's talk about the the impartiality of the subconscious. Sounds incredibly powerful, creative engine, but also maybe a bit terrifying because it seems completely devoid of a moral compass or the ability to judge the quality of what we plan.
That is the crucial realization, and yes, it can feel a bit daunting at first. The subconscious is purely receptive and obedient. The comparison to fertile soil is perfect.
It just grows whatever's planted.
It accepts whatever is planted, whether those are weeds, worries, failures, lack, illness, or flowers, fulfillment, peace, abundance, health. And it brings that harvest forth without exception, without judgment.
So it doesn't care if it's good or bad for me.
It doesn't pause to question how the flower or the weed will grow, or whether the impression is good or bad, or possible or impossible. It simply receives the emotional charge, the feeling, and the assumed reality of what you've impressed upon it. And then it immediately sets the mechanical laws of creation into motion to manifest that assumption in your external world. If you plant the assumption of poverty consistently,
it organizes things to reflect poverty.
It organizes the external world to reflect poverty. If you plant the assumption of prosperity consistently with feeling,
it arranges circumstances to reflect prosperity.
Exactly. It just follows the blueprint you provide with your feeling-toned imagination.
This means intentionality isn't just a suggestion, is it? It's an absolute requirement if you want specific results.
It's vital.
To see a garden of beauty, you have to be almost surgical with the seeds, the thoughts and feelings you drop into that receptive soil right before. To neglect this time, that's basically risking planting toxic seeds by default, just by worrying.
And that risk is very real. People wonder why their life seems chaotic or stuck in negative patterns. The answer, according to these sources, is often found in those crucial 5 or 10 minutes before they lost consciousness the night before. The world they wake up to is merely the shadow, the reflection of the internal drama they rehearsed as they felt.
Okay, now we shift gears a bit. From the mechanics, the why it works, to the application, the how to do it. Once we understand the timing, the power, the receptivity, how do we actively use this twilight gateway? The sources make it really clear. The key is a radical moving away from vague wishing.
I hope, I wish.
Right, away from that and towards focused, sensory-rich imagination, feeling it real.
That's the core practice. It's the difference, as you said, between falling asleep, hoping for success, which, notice, inherently acknowledges the current lack of success.
Right, you only hope for what you don't have.
Exactly. Versus falling asleep feeling successful, actually embodying the feeling of success, which assumes possession. The former is like a prayer of need coming from lack. The latter is a statement of realized truth coming from fulfillment.
Okay, so how do we do that? How do we get specific?
The practice centers entirely on creating a specific, short scene. Think of it like a brief, vivid snapshot in your mind's eye that implies the fulfillment of your desire. You don't imagine the whole journey. You imagine the end result.
Condense the goal down.
Condense your entire goal down to a single moment of sensory experience after it's been achieved.
Give us an example. Say, someone wants a new job.
Okay, good one. Don't imagine filling out applications or going to interviews. That's the process, the middle.
Right.
Imagine the very last step that implies success. Maybe it's vividly seeing your nameplate on the office door, or clearly hearing the sound of your colleague congratulating you. Well done.
Or feeling that
specific, immense relief that the search is finally over, the security is established. You must see the specific scene, hear the specific, feel the relief, savor the joy, and crucially, feel all of it as if it were happening right now in the present tense.
Not in the future.
Not tomorrow. Not next week. Now, as you drift off.
This is where we can talk about some actionable techniques, right?
Yeah.
The sources often describe something like the lullaby method.
Yes, that's a great technique, especially for this drowsy state. It's about choosing a short phrase or even just a sensation that perfectly captures the feeling of the wish fulfilled.
Oh, okay.
And then repeating it, not mechanically like a robot, but with deepening feeling, letting the emotion swell until sleep overtakes you.
So if a scene feels too complex to hold on to when you're sleepy.
Exactly. If you seek love, maybe the scene is too much. So the lullaby might be simply whispering inwardly, "We are safe," or feeling the warmth and whispering, "I am cherished," over and over, letting the feeling build.
And for financial,
maybe the phrase is just "thank you," as if you're thanking life for the abundance received.
Right.
Or "it is done," repeated softly, allowing the feeling of relief, of finality to wash over you until you slip into unconscious.
The goal being that the subconscious accepts that final feeling as a natural fact.
As the current reality, yes.
Okay, this brings us smack into the core concept that grounds all this practice, living in the end.
The cornerstone.
It sounds simple, maybe, but for a listener who's maybe stressed right now, facing real-world challenges, maybe dealing with debt or illness, how do they move past that practical, often harsh reality to genuinely feel in the end? That seems like the biggest hurdle.
It is often the most challenging step, absolutely. Because living in the end is not an intellectual exercise. You can't just think your way there.
Right.
It's an emotional and energetic occupation of a future state, but felt right now. It means using your imagination to occupy the state of already being the person you desire to be, and of already possessing the outcome you seek.
You're assuming it's done.
It's the deliberate assumption of the outcome, embraced with such absolute conviction, such feeling, that your entire inner world conforms to it. It is certain. It's stepping beyond wishing or hoping, because again, wishing and hoping both imply current lack.
You're not hoping to be healthy anymore.
You shift from saying, I hope to be healthy, or even I will be healthy, to feeling and perhaps inwardly stating, it is wonderful to feel this ease in my body. The latter is dwelling in the end state.
Okay, let's contrast that sharply with the common approach. The sources call it living in the struggle, or maybe living in the middle.
Yes, living in the process, the journey, the problem.
In this state, people acknowledge their desire, sure, but they constantly remind themselves of the lack. They're seeking abundance, maybe doing affirmations, but spending 90% of their mental energy calculating their debt or worrying about bills.
Or they affirm health in the morning, maybe meditate on it.
But then spend the afternoon researching symptoms online or complaining about how bad they feel.
Exactly. They're rehearsing the illness, the lack, the struggle far more vividly and frequently than they're rehearsing the fulfillment.
And the sources are pretty blunt about this, aren't they?
Unequivocal. As long as one remains focused on the struggle, emotionally invested in the problem, the desired end remains far away. Because when you rehearse the struggle, the subconscious has no choice but to extend that struggle. That's the feeling you're feeding.
So the wise person focuses where?
Solely on the fulfillment. They no longer wonder when it will come or how it will come, because in their imagination, in their feeling state, it already has. The feeling is already owned, possessed right now.
Okay, but this demands consistency, right? It's not enough to just visit that feeling once a week or when you feel like it.
Consistency is key.
Yeah.
You have to return to the feeling, to that short scene, that lullaby, again and again, night after night, especially in that pre-sleep state, until it starts to feel completely natural.
Like it belongs to you.
And familiar.
Yeah.
And then ultimately inevitable. Like, of course this is how it is.
But here's the challenge again. The presence of unwanted circumstances. It must seem counterintuitive, maybe even delusional, to imagine yourself financially secure when the bills are piled high on the desk.
Or loved when the room feels painfully empty.
Exactly. But persistence here is crucial, you're saying, because with repetition, that imagined end state starts to overtake the external reality in your internal world. It becomes more real.
It becomes the dominant reality within you.
Yeah.
Yes. And the inner reality always precedes the outer.
Okay, this brings up the critical question of denial, though. If I look at my reality, say, I have a physical symptom and I go to sleep affirming I'm perfectly healthy while I'm clearly feeling ill. Isn't that just straight up denial, lying?
The very important distinction the sources make. This is not denial of present circumstance. It is the refusal to give them authority. There's a huge difference.
Okay, unpack that distinction. Refusal of authority versus denial.
Denial tries to suppress the fact. Denial says, I don't see the bills, or this symptom doesn't exist. It's pushing against reality.
Which often makes it stronger.
Often does. Refusal to give authority, on the other hand, acknowledges the facts, the current circumstances, but recognizes them for what they are.
Yeah.
Historical record. Shadows of the past, meaning the bill on your desk is a record of past assumptions, past beliefs, past states of consciousness. It is the shadow of yesterday's thinking and feeling. The symptom is the outpicturing of a previous state.
Okay.
Refusal of authority says, yes, I see the bill, I acknowledge the symptom, but I refuse to allow that past evidence, that shadow, to dictate my present creative state, my feeling now.
So you don't fight the shadow, you just turn towards the light.
Beautifully put. When you live in the end, you declare by feeling, this is who I am now. This is what I have. The future is shaped by today's felt assumption, not yesterday's bank statement or medical report.
And the promises.
The one who faithfully lives in the end, consistently ignoring the authority of the shadows, will find that the outer world eventually has no choice but to rearrange itself to match that persistent inner conviction. Okay. Now we arrive at what feels like the absolute fuel for this entire creative emotion. We've talked about planting the seed in the subconscious.
That twilight.
But planting the seed requires water, right? Moisture, energy, something to make it take root and grow. And that's where the sheer force of profound feeling comes in.
So it's not just the image, it's the juice behind.
Exactly. And the sources issue a really powerful, detailed critique of the common self-help practice of, empty affirmation, just repeating words.
Saying, I am wealthy, over and over again.
Right. Words alone, they state clearly, do not move the subconscious mind. They fall on barren, dry soil if they're spoken without genuine feeling. It's not the phrase itself, but the emotion behind the phrase that carries the creative power.
The subconscious responds.
It responds to the vibration of feeling, the state of relief, the joy, the certainty, not just empty sounds or syllables.
That distinction feels paramount for anyone trying to apply this, because you could repeat, I am wealthy, 1,000.
Mechanically.
But if each repetition is accompanied by that nagging feeling of anxiety or doubt or just noticing the lack,
Then the subconscious accepts the dominant feel, which is the lack, the anxiety, not the hollow word. The words are just surface.
Okay, but
Conversely, you could whisper the statement only once. But if it's spoken in a state of profound, genuine, real joy, deep conviction, feeling of already possessing that wealth, maybe like you just paid off the final debt and you feel that massive weight lift.
That feeling.
That single moment of deeply felt emotion presses itself with lasting, potent power. Words are the vehicles, maybe, but emotion is the high-octane fuel that drives them deep into the creative center.
And this ties back to why the drowsy, liminal state before sleep is so vital for this emotional work, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Because the critical mind, the doubter, is softened and relaxed. Your emotions tend to rise more easily, more naturally. You don't have to battle your analytical mind quite so hard to fight your way into a feeling.
The relaxation makes it easier to surrender to the feeling.
It facilitates the surrender to the desired emotional state. It's genuinely the easiest time of day to bypass your own natural skepticism and just feel it.
Okay, so the practical advice here must be, don't just force the words. Focus on embodying the feeling. If I'm seeking healing, I shouldn't just chant, I am healed, I am healed.
That might not do much if the feeling isn't there.
Instead, I should use my imagination to actually feel the body. Like, take a deep breath without any strain. Sense the perfect mobility in that part of my body.
Yes, feel the wellness.
And just let a deep, effortless gratitude rise, as if I'd just received a perfect medical report and the doctor said, complete that feeling.
That feeling itself is the effective prayer, the creative act.
Okay. Or if seeking...
Don't just declare, I am loved.
Yeah.
Focus your inner sense. Feel the warmth of being held, mate. The security of companionship. That deep, settled joy of belonging. That emotional charge is the voltage that gives the imagined scene life, makes it real to the subconscious.
Without emotion, the scene is flat, a shadow.
A powerless, flat shadow. With emotion, it becomes a living, kinetic reality that the subconscious is compelled by its nature to externalize, to bring forth into your world.
Let's delve into the depth of emotion. Is a little bit of feeling enough, or does it need to be intense? Our sources, a powerful memory analogy.
They do, and it's very clarifying. Think about the most deeply moving experiences of your life. Maybe a great loss or a moment of profound achievement, unexpected joy.
Things you never...
Exactly. Why do those events remain absolutely vivid, sometimes years or decades later, without any effort on your part to remember them? It's not because you kept repeating the details mentally.
No.
It's because the powerful emotion experienced during the event etched itself, almost burned itself into the deeper layers of your mind. Emotion creates indelible memories.
Okay, so the application for our practice.
When practicing before sleep, you're aiming for that same kind of indelible etch. Don't strive for long, weak, watery visualization. It's better to surrender entirely to the right, feeling relief, gratitude, the pure joy of possession, even if it's just for a brief, intense moment.
Quality over quantity.
Absolutely. A single tear of joy, as the sources sometimes suggest, just one moment of genuine, profound certainty that it is done, carries far more creative force and penetrating power than hours of mechanical, intellectually detached repetition.
Emotion is like the solvent.
It's the solvent that allows the impression, the seed, to sink deeply into the subconscious soil and actually begin transforming reality from within.
So the quality of the saturation of the feeling matters much more than the quantity of time. We're aiming for emotional saturation, especially in that liminal.
Yes, and often the most effective feeling, the easiest one to conjure that implies fulfillment, is simple relief.
Relief. Why relief?
Because relief is the sensation of the burden being lifted, the problem being solved, the desire being met. If you can fall asleep consistently, feeling that fundamental relief, the relief that naturally accompanies the knowledge that your desire is finished, it's certain. It's done.
You've nailed it.
You have performed the creative act perfectly.
Okay, here's the final and maybe the most profound perspective shift required by this. It really reframes our entire understanding of what's possible. It's about reframing the whole concept of miracle.
Mm-hmm.
We're conditioned, aren't we, culturally, to think of miracles as these incredibly rare interventions, like they're interruptions of the natural order, some divine exception that happens only to the exceptionally lucky or pious.
Violations of natural law, almost.
Right. But the sources challenge this perception head-on completely. They posit that miracles are actually the most natural expressions of life, but only when the law of imagination is correctly understood and right.
So not supernatural, but supremely natural.
Exactly. What the world calls a miracle, that unexpected job offer out of the blue, an impossible recovery from illness, a spontaneous financial windfall that solves everything.
Things that seem to come from nowhere.
Right. The sources say that's simply the inevitable outpicturing, the external manifestation of what was first conceived, believed, and most importantly, felt within. It had to happen.
The analogy of the seed here is extensive in the source material, and it provides perfect clarity.
Explain that.
When you plant a specific desire, that's the seed, in the fertile soil, during the receptive time, twilight state, and you water it consistently with feeling, the emotion, and expose it to the light, faith or conviction. You don't marvel when it sprouts.
No, you expect it to grow.
You expect it to grow into the specific plant or tree it was designed to be. An acorn becomes an oak.
Right.
So to the untrained eye, the person who didn't know the seed was planted, seeing a massive oak tree seemingly emerge from a tiny acorn might look astonishing, like a miracle.
Where did that come from?
Exactly. But to the gardener who consciously placed the acorn in the soil and nurtured it, its growth is merely the normal, predictable process of life, fulfilling its inherent potential.
So the moment you successfully plant the desire with feeling,
you set in motion a process as sure, as natural, and as inevitable as the sprouting of any physical seed. Manifestation, therefore, isn't astonishing or miraculous to the one who understands the law. It's just the fulfillment of what was made inevitable by the inner work.
And crucially, this law doesn't seem to measure difficulty, does it? People constantly separate outcomes. This is ordinary, that's miraculous.
Big difference in our minds.
They see earning a regular paycheck through effort as ordinary, but receiving a massive unexpected inheritance, that's a miracle.
Yeah, totally different categories.
But the source material maintains that all outcomes, whether they seem small or great, like receiving $5 to cover lunch, or receiving $5 million to fund a lifetime dream,
they spring from the exact same creative source.
The subconscious mind simply responding faithfully to your assumption of possession, your feeling. The law only reflects, press upon. It apparently doesn't calculate the scale or complexity of the external rearrangement required about. $5 million, same principle.
That's a huge point, which is why the sources insist that the necessary action, once the imaginative work is done, once the seed is planted with feeling, is to cease striving.
Stop trying to make it happen.
And begin trusting. Let go.
Why is striving counterproductive?
Because when you live, in the end, when you've impressed your desire with that profound feeling of already having it, you don't need to struggle to make it happen externally. You can't tug on a little seedling to make it grow faster, can you?
No, you probably can't.
Right. Anxious effort, striving, checking constantly. Is it here yet?
Yeah.
All of that implies lack. It implies doubt. It reinforces the negative impression you were trying to erase. Striving means you still believe it's a struggle, that it hasn't happened yet in the only place that matters consciously.
So the role of the individual becomes elegantly simple then.
Plant the seed, the desire, water it with the feeling of completion, and then rest. Rest in the certainty. Stop trying to figure out the how or the when.
Let the law handle the details.
Absolutely. The moment you genuinely rest in certainty, the pressure is off you, the conscious self, and it's transferred to the law itself, to life. And life itself, the deeper intelligence, will rearrange circumstances, open doors, move people, create conditions.
Often in surprising ways.
Often in astonishingly precise and unforeseen ways your conscious mind could never have conceived, to bring about the physical manifestation of what you have already assumed is true within yourself. To the rational waking mind, this necessary orchestration might look impossible, like a miracle.
But to the subconscious?
To the subconscious, operating on law, it's as natural as breathing. When the inner world is settled and aligned with the wish fulfilled, the outer world must conform, immediately and inevitably, even if the evidence takes a little time to appear in our 3D world. Hashtag outro.
Wow. This has been a truly profound exploration. Well, the internal architecture of create. Let's quickly recap the course on everything we've covered. The recipe for, let's call them manifesting miracle, seems to be 4.
Let's nail it down.
1. Guard the threshold of sleep. Be mindful. 2. Choose your desired scene. Condense it into a brief, emotionally charged moment that implies.
Feel the end.
3. Feel the profound joy, the relief, the gratitude of already possessed. Saturate yourself.
Emotion is key.
And finally, 4. Rest in that let go, trust until sleep.
Plant it and leave it.
Right. The conclusion here feels incredibly potent. Miracles are not accidents. They're not rare exceptions reserved for somebody else. They are potentially the daily bread of those who understand and faithfully apply this fundamental law of intentional imagination.
Beautifully summarized. And that leaves us with our final provocative thought drawn directly from the implications of these sources.
Okay, leave us with something to think about.
Sleep is never just an escape from life or simple rest for the body. It is, in fact, the most powerful workshop of creation you possess. It's where tomorrow is forged.
Right.
So if the power to shape your reality is truly within you, as these sources claim, and your waking life is fundamentally built upon what you impress upon and pass through that subconscious gateway each and every night, then the most critical question you can possibly ask yourself before closing your eyes is this.
That's that.
What inner drama? The drama of lack, struggle and fear, or the drama of fulfillment, peace, and joy? Yeah. What inner drama are you choosing to rehearse tonight? Because the world you wake up to tomorrow absolutely depends on that choice.